Welcome to Sex Ed with DB. I'm your host, DB. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the podcast. If you love and support the work that we do, head to www.sexedwithdb.com and buy some of our hot new merch. Follow us on Instagram at sexedwithdbpodcast. And if you want to advertise with us, shoot us an email at sexedwithdb@gmail.com. In today's episode, I fangirl over Ita O'Brien. Ita is the UK's leading intimacy coordinator and founder of Intimacy on Set, which provides services to TV, film, and theater when dealing with intimacy, sexual content, and nudity. Ita pioneered the role of the intimacy coordinator and since 2014 has been developing best practice intimacy on-set guidelines, which have been widely adopted in the industry and championed by the Time's Up movement and others, advocating for safe, fair, and dignified work for everyone. Ita has worked on numerous high-profile productions including Normal People, Sex Education Seasons 1 and 2, I May Destroy You, and more. Listen up for Ita. Creating a homemade dildo or a usable copy of your own penis is rapidly turning into the new standard in ultra-custom sex toys, thanks to Clone-A-Willy. Clone-A-Willy has been all about dick since '96 and brings you a DIY penis or vulva molding kit for your favorite sex toy or memento. Whether it be for a birthday, Hanukkah, or just because, Clone-A-Willy is the perfect gift. Use promo code SEXED20 for 20% off your purchase at www.cloneawilly.com. Meet Pandia Health. By people with uteruses, for people with uteruses, and led by a doctor, Pandia Health makes your life easier by bringing birth control by mail. Pandia Health offers free and confidential delivery of the pill, so you don't have to go out of your way to get the healthcare you need. Skip the trip to the pharmacy. Go to pandiahealth.com. That's PANDIA health.com and use code SEXEDFREE to get a free telemedicine appointment for the first 50 people who sign up. Follow them on Instagram at Pandia Health. Offer only valid in Arizona, California, Florida, Texas, and Wyoming. Sex Ed with DB is supported by Emojibator. Emojibator believes in humor and education to promote a society that celebrates pleasure. Their fun and affordable collection of vibrators is inspired by the sexiest of emojis. That means eggplants, chili peppers, bananas, and pickles. Oh my! They even have a line of adorable animal toys like a kitty cat, chickie, and whale that do a whole bunch of naughty things. Find all of their body-safe toys for pleasure at Emojibator.com and use code SEXEDWITHDB for 25% off your purchase. Ita, hello, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Danielle, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Oh my gosh, I am just such a big fan of your work, and it's kind of crazy how you can hear about someone and watch what they're involved in, and then all of a sudden you reach out to them and you're just open to being here, which is the coolest thing in the whole world. So thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you for reaching out, and I'm always delighted, and also it's actually really important to have any opportunity to speak about the work, because the role and the process is so new in the industries. To have any time to share what we do and how we do it is really appreciated.
Well, this is definitely the space for it. So let's go ahead and get started and share your name, your pronouns, and what you do.
My name is Ita O'Brien. My pronouns are she, her, and I am an intimacy coordinator, founder of the company Intimacy on Set, and trainer of intimacy coordinators for the industry.
Love it, love it. What was sex ed like for you growing up?
So I grew up in a very strict Irish Catholic family in southeast London. My mum was from the north of Ireland, and my dad is from the south. And I went to a convent school with nuns, and my sex education, and I can see this beautiful biology teacher as I speak, purely in our biology lessons. As we did the anatomy of the male and the female genitalia organs, and this beautiful teacher was 8 months pregnant.
Oh my goodness.
And she was charged, obviously, and I remember she stood up with her back against the wall, her hands behind her back, looking down, rocking on her feet at her, pregnant belly. And all she was saying to us was, well, of course, this act can only happen within the bounds of matrimony with the intention of making a baby.
Of course.
And that was it.
Oh,
that was it.
Closing the book there. Wow. Okay, I'm picturing Dairy Girls as you're talking about convent. Not as fun as that, maybe a little bit more somber. Wow, okay, so that was the extent. And did your parents talk to you about it at all growing up, or did you talk about it with your friends? Like, how did you kind of like get into it, I guess?
Oh, no, I was very, very innocent. I spent all of my childhood dancing. Literally, I would dance every night after school and all day Saturday, and then do homework on Sunday. That was my, childhood. And so when I got my first boyfriend, I was so innocent. I did not have a clue. I really didn't have a clue. And, and my mum, even as a midwife, when I got my first period and was trying to use a tampon, and I came out and said, help. And she goes, oh, well, you've got some blood on it. You must know what you're doing.
Mom.
So again, just, that thing of, sort of the Irish Catholic aspect of it, that, sexual content only happens within the bounds of matrimony. And so therefore it doesn't need to be talked about. And somehow, God knows how, it means as soon as you get married, then it's going to happen spontaneously, or you to know what happens. So that was, so my sexual awakening with my first boyfriend was, a real journey of discovery, including going to confession, because it was wrong. But anyway, I have journeyed through my life, and I'm now with a beautiful partner. We'll be together 25 years this year. And my son will be 24 this year, and my daughter will be 21 this year. So,
amazing.
So I've come a long way since those early days.
Well, congratulations. Yeah, you weren't really set up for success, but
no.
As you're about to talk about, I want to know about your background and how you came to work in film and TV and theater, and kind of more deeply, like, what is an intimacy coordinator? I know in the beginning you said this was kind of a relatively new field, and I'm super curious for personal selfish reasons, and to inform our viewers and listeners of this podcast and our content. How does one become an intimacy coordinator?
Okay, well, there's 3 different aspects in this.
Yes, there are. Yes, take one at a time.
So I'll start off with what is my background. So as it happened, as my mum had come across from Ireland, she wanted me to do Irish dancing, and there wasn't any in 1960. Blah, blah. So I went to ballet lessons. My mum found a ballet lesson when I was 3, and then the convent that I happened to go to had the most amazing children's ballet teacher, who was the top children's teacher at the Royal Academy of Dancing, a lady called Madeleine Sharp. And she had taught Beryl Gray, and sort of was absolutely the most fantastic teacher. So I started doing ballet, and actually there's a picture in this book of me age 7. Sort of, can you see that? Oh my
God, yes. Oh my gosh. Do you want to describe primary. It for our listeners?
So in primary, you had these beautiful white dresses with pink sashes, and the Royal Academy of Dancing were starting to make a film to chart the grades. And so I was chosen to be one of the ones that danced primary, and Margot Fontaine came and narrated it.
Wow.
So and then I became a scholar at the Royal Academy of Dancing. So that's another picture of me in Margot Fontaine's the same book.
Oh my gosh, way older.
Yeah, at 16.
Wow, that's impressive.
So anyway, I ended up, I had that training, and then I ended up working as a musical theatre dancer in the end for 10 years, and then I retrained at Bristol Old Vic as an actor in 96 to 98, and I worked as an actor for 8 years. And then my kids were young, and I was looking at what I can do when I was out of work, and discovered the MA in Movement Studies, which was a training to be a movement teacher and a movement director.
Wow.
And that was absolutely gorgeous, because it brought together all of my experience. In between times as well, I had, in between dancing and acting, I had trained also in various body therapies, so holistic therapy, holistic massage, on-site massage, and reflexology. So the MA in movement studies absolutely brought together all of those different aspects, my dancing training, my acting training, then my bodywork training, in order to both physically transform, to train actors, through the 3-year training, and to work as a movement director in theatre, TV and film, which is helping the actor to transform, to bring the right detail to the physical storytelling. And that was an epiphany. It was so fantastic doing the MA in movement studies. I really, had the opportunity to bring in all of those skills, and I love, and I still do love just that sense of the core principles of what I can offer, and the rigor as someone coming from a dance background to bring to an actor's training, and then all that detail of body awareness, anatomy, sort of not just the bones, but all the systems of the body, your breath, your vascular system, digestive system, nervous system. Again, all that detail brings more clarity to what an actor can understand to physically transform. And then that work gradually developed. So that was my training.
Incredible.
And then do you want to know how? Yes. So then becoming an intimacy coordinator.
Yeah. How do you do it? Like, first of all, well, just to comment, like, that is the perfect combination to set you up for success, to really know not only like how to move and how to feel like deep within your body, but also the acting portion. I mean, there's so many like different pieces of this puzzle that need to come together, and you have them. So it makes a lot of sense that this would feel so natural for you to move into this like next part of your career, which is awesome.
Absolutely. And that's where, when people say to me, what do you need to be an intimacy coordinator? And it is, you need all of these skills, basically. And it's not, okay, like you say, my journey has been that's my life. And all of those aspects are absolutely needed in the role of the intimacy coordinator. And there's there's very few people really, I would say, who have all of those,
right.
But that's then what the training is about, is saying you've got this and this, but you don't have this, or you have this and this, but you don't have this. But we can get to that in a bit.
I love that. Yeah, that's very, very cool. Okay, incredible. So, all right, let's do some name dropping right now, because the amount of shows and media that you've been involved with that I already like watched and loved, and like then found out that like you were one of the people who are the link that's like kind of connecting all is incredible. So let's just do a couple of these TV shows that you've worked on that I absolutely love. So we have I May Destroy You, we have Sex Education, we have Watchmen, and Normal People, among many, many others. But these are the ones that I've seen on my own volition before. Sometimes you prep when you're talking to guests and you're like, oh, I gotta watch and make sure I understand what their work is. But I already watched these, so I think I know pretty intimately what you do and what your work is behind the scenes. But walk me through what it's really like to work behind the scenes on these intimate moments in some of these shows.
Well, first of all, it's interesting and it's lovely that they're there, because they actually chart my journey of developing the work. So Sex Education was the first program production that invited me in to work as an intimacy coordinator. And what was, I'm so grateful for that production, to John Jennings, to Ben Taylor, to Laurie Nunn, to the whole production. For first of all, they knew that they needed to take care of their beautiful, amazing young cast, and that they knew that they needed to do service to this amazing script that Laurie Nunn had written, with this, detailed, on the nail, honest content. So it was an absolutely perfect marriage. And then for me, I by then had developed the work and had been teaching it since April 2015. So this was now April 2018, and I had put the work in place on one production. I was actually movement director on Philip K. Dick's Electric Dreams. I did the episode Impossible Planet, and there was a moment of sensual dancing. So I said, right, if you want me to do that, this is the process by which we will work, and they put in place hook, line and sinker. But that was one moment, whereas on Sex Education, obviously it was needed across the arc of the whole production. And we very much worked together, saying, I've been teaching this work and developing this work, but I don't know. I haven't yet done, really understand the process by which it will, when and what time we need to do what and when. So what was so fantastic with sex education is that we very much co-worked in integrating the process of the intimacy guidelines into the flow of the production, working out, sort of when I would talk to people, the most important thing was that shift in a production to know that it had to make time for rehearsal. So rather than thinking of it like, oh, we've got the sex in, or we can't take up too much time to rehearse, you'd never say to a stunt coordinator, oh, we've got this huge big fight, but you know what, we can't have too much time to rehearse.
Right.
We'll just go for it on the day. And that's exactly what had been happening with intimate content before the role of the intimacy coordinator. But it was still quite a thing to get the mindset of going, okay, this is the shift. And how and when are we going to make time to rehearse? We still need to work efficiently. So sex education, again, through the role of the open communication, and then the process of agreement and consent of touch, and then bring the skills of the intimacy coordinator to the awareness that this is a body dance, just like a tango is a body dance, just like a sword play is a body dance. So is two people moving together. You've got that arc of what is the storytelling, therefore what's the rhythms that's going to tell us that storytelling, what's the touch, what's the proximity of these bodies, are they going to be clothed, are they going to be naked? So all of that is known and discussed in advance, rehearsed in advance, so that when those actors get in front of the camera, they are personally safe, they've been personally listened to, they're autonomous and empowered, meaning that they can bring all of their skills as the actor to really telling the beautiful, luscious storytelling of this character. And also because the shape of the intimate content is really clearly known, there's no concern about that, about where they're going to be touched, about where they're touching their fellow partner. The physical choreography is absolutely clear. So again, they're open and clear for the director, again, to be able to bring all the notes that they need to, really giving that detail to the emotional content, making sure that their vision is served, that the nuances can be worked on just as with any other scene. So again, you create really beautiful, brilliant storytelling, as you see with all the beautiful, funny, awkward moments in sex education. Watchmen, I had the joy of working in Wales. So I did all the work in Wales with Jeremy Irons, and Alicia did the work in the US, Alicia Rodis. And so there was actually a lot of nudity was wanted, and then with one intimate content, and absolute joy to work. Watching Jeremy Irons work is, what an incredible professional, the detail that he brought, and then, joyously bringing, there's, like I say, there was a lot of nakedness.
Yes, there definitely was. I was kind of surprised. I was like, oh my, I did not expect that, really. But it's an HBO show. There's got to be at least a couple naked scenes in an HBO show.
But like with that, a lot of it was absolutely, within the storytelling, like the moments where you have these babies that are like tadpoles that are, growing in this lake, and then how they're genetically sort of like aged, how they grow within this incubator. So again, the nudity was not genius. Gratuitous. It was absolute genius and so beautiful. And then, the physical storytelling was, with his clones of his servants.
Totally. So what a wild show. I really highly recommend everyone watch it. And yes, totally not gratuitous. Yeah, definitely intentional and meaningful, and very much like part of it. It makes a lot of sense why those scenes were included.
Absolutely. So I was really proud to have worked on that one, but also I completely agree with you. When I watched the whole production, I was blown away at the intelligence, the metaphor, that's such deep, issues that are being explored in Watchmen. I say to everybody who hasn't seen it, go watch it. Regina King. Oh my God. So again, so proud to have been on that one. And then Normal People. So first of all, as I say, my dad's from Clone-A-Willy, which is, just a bit down from Dublin. My mum's from Cookstown, County Tyrone. So reading Normal People, first of all, it's just like, I got it in my gut.
I could not put that book down. I really could not put it down. And like, I'm a pretty slow reader. It takes me a little while to like get into a book. I finished that book in like 3 days. I literally could not put it down. It was my favorite book of the summer for sure.
Absolutely. And I was the same. But while I was reading it, I was so impacted by, oh my God, the description of these people coming together in their intimate moments was just beyond anything. And it's so lovely, you know, how Sally talks about that writing, which of course is where I'm coming from as an intimacy coordinator, as you can hear from my journey from being a dancer, actor.
Right.
You know, you want that intimate storytelling to tell us something more, just like a song and a musical is pushing the storytelling forward. Any of those songs in, say, West Side Story, you know, we were in somewhere different by the end of the song than we are from the beginning. That's what we want from an intimate scene, and that's absolutely what Sally brought to all of those intimate scenes, be it sort of loving or, you know, exploring BDSM type intimate content. So I was blown away by how she had written about the intimate content. So then having an opportunity to work with Lenny Abrahams and with Ed Gurney and Cathren McGee as these most fantastic producers, again, with absolutely the intention, as with sex education, to make sure that they put in place best practice. Yeah. Knowing that intimate content was integral to the storytelling, but wanting to make sure that they worked with, with best practice, empowering everybody to invite everybody to have their voice, and then to make sure that the work was created where everybody felt personally safe, personally listened to, so we could all artistically serve the writing, serve Lenny Abraham's vision, and then help Paul and Daisy and then all the other amazing actors who engage in the intimate content to serve, and tell the best storytelling possible.
Yes, let's pause, because as I mentioned before we started recording, I this summer wrote an op-ed about 5 things that normal people does really well when portraying first-time sex, and you are someone who's responsible for that, because you can read the op-ed, listeners, you can read the op-ed. I'm obviously going to be sending you this op-ed, Ita, but basically the gist of it is just the slowness of it, the awkwardness of it, the fact that they're talking about condoms, the pain of it, the pleasure of it. There is so much in it that I feel so strongly when 2 people are about to have sex for the first time. That is it. You very much crushed it. You nailed it. And I just think that, and especially because there are many, many intimate scenes and sex scenes in the show. And so it can kind of feel what's one compared to another? But really, this was a moment for me where I said wow, young people watching this show who haven't had sex for the first time, or who maybe just had sex for the first time, can really feel some truth and some realisticness and some tenderness, and just it really depicted reality for first time sex more than any other show or movie I've ever seen. And it really blew me away. So I just, first of all, obviously want to give you major kudos for that. And second of all, let's talk about that scene. Tell me what it was was that your first time sex scene that you coordinated? Or tell me about the movements and the preparation and how you worked with Daisy and Paul to really make that magic happen.
So first of all, as it happened, and I'm very glad that it did happen like this, because all of that was shot in what was Connell's bedroom, but it was shot in a studio, so a mock-up of his bedroom, and so all the work actually was done right at the end of that first block. But I'm very glad it was, because by then Paul and Daisy and I with Lenny had obviously done quite a lot of intimate content. We've done all the stuff in Marianne's family home, and then all the stuff in her college home in Dublin. So as it happened, and we all knew that it was a very, very important intimate scene, but it was actually the very last one that I shot with Lenny. So first of all, so having children who had, young adults now who had recently gone through that sense of understanding how important it is to bring empowerment and openness to that first time awakening, to not make it something shameful or anything, that it is, it's natural, it's normal, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing for someone to open up to their sexual awakening. But I would say that's very unconsciously what I brought to it. And then, thank you for the kudos and what you're offering to me. But I was literally being of service, as this role is. Sally Rooney is the person that had put all of that detail in there. And then, Lenny Abrahamson's vision of how then, what his vision of this lovely, gentle journey. And of course, what I love is that, of course, an intimate moment doesn't start from the first time they touch each other. Intimacy starts from that very beginning. And I love it that they're sat opposite each other with distance, and of course the initial intimacy isn't what they do to each other, but what they're saying to each other, what they're inviting, that she's inviting, saying, oh, sure, I'm sure think people don't, think I'm this and I'm that. And then he's acknowledging that actually he doesn't know how he feels. They're opening themselves to each other. They're allowing them to see into each other from that dialogue that finally lifts to that coming together. So it starts right from there. And I have to say, because we knew the process really well and it was a small room, so I can take, sort of absolutely it's Lenny's vision. So Lenny and Paul and Daisy they were in the room and they'd done their actor director rehearsals already and created a basic shape. The room was tiny. So once they'd done it, they brought me in to show them the basic shape. And then, of course, then I was able to support all of those moments of the detail, like of taking the clothes off. For me, the next one that I feel is so important and I'm so proud of doing, but again, it's Sally wrote it, is then that moment of pleasure as they stand, they're first naked, him reaching forward and pleasuring her.
Yes, and the play before penetration, like that is, you need it. You just need it. And like, it's just so, it's a very, intentional, but almost simple moment where they're just like, let's just like touch each other for a second before we lay down on the bed. And it really made the progression of the scene feel so like settled. And it just really centered it. I just loved that moment too. I wrote about that as well.
Yes. But also what I love and what Sally writes and what's so beautiful is with Mary Ann's character, that while she is the innocent one, she's having her sexual awakening, she's not passive. Mm-hmm. She's not just done to. So first of all, right from the get-go, she's the one that's saying, can we take our clothes off now? Right. So she's the one that's offering. So there's no question of her being done to. It's her offering, her inviting and wanting and being ready for. So it's not just him reaching forward and pleasuring her. She reaches forward, that looking down as we, that vision of she's seeing that erect penis, her going to touch and him. So it's so that empowerment on both masculine and feminine. He's pleasuring her, but then she pleasures him. Mm-hmm. So again, obviously never is a genitalia touch. So we're looking at where the hand goes, agreement and consent, whereabouts on the thigh, is touch, what movement you need to do that tells the right storytelling. And of course, just like any good punch, the punch isn't sold by who throws the punch, but on who receives the punch. Mm-hmm. So again, here it's like the story is told not on what the action is, but how it's received, how that pleasure is received. So again, helping to find the timing of that, the rhythm of that, the response to that, and then, like you say, then getting onto the bed, asking for protection, and that
the moment also where he's like, we can stop whenever you want. Like, it's so small, but like young women who watch that should expect that from their partner that they have sex with for the first time, for the third time, for the 50th time. Like, that should be part of normal conversation. Like, hey, this might seem obvious, maybe it's not, but like, if it hurts or if you want to stop at any time for any reason, we can stop. And like, that is just so important for people to hear. I just love that moment as well.
Isn't it? And to be able to, both those things, the fact that she can ask for protection and that pause and waiting for it without it ruining the sense of the juiciness, mm-hmm. and the zing and the eroticness of the moment, and then him being able to say, like you say, of like, offering that pausing, that consent, that acknowledgement. And I have this beautiful book, that has a statement that consent is a process, not a moment. Just because you said yes in one moment love does that. Not mean that consent. Yeah, same here. So it's Hunting Girls.
Oh, I love that. Amazing.
Yeah, and it's sexual violence from the Hunger Games to campus rape. But but it's sort of, and yes, and it's a lovely, consent is not a moment but a process. Consent that was freely given in the beginning can be withdrawn at any time. So, and again, that's what we're bringing in as in the creation of the work in intimacy coordination, is that aspect of consent.
It's ongoing.
Yeah. And so that moment of that, and then so great that and it's so important, isn't it, that just you can stay aware and having dialogue, speaking with, that so often it's like we were supposed to just, or the myth that we're supposed to just know what each other wants once you get into being physical, and you stop speaking to each other. And actually, no, you can keep the dialogue going. And then the next bit for me, intimacy or physical storytelling wise, was that moment of penetration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. And
that it's
the wincing a little, but then it made me feel better a little bit down the line. And I think the one thing, and I was thinking about this before we started recording, but the one thing that I'm curious to hear your opinion on, because I don't know how realistic this is, but it's my hope for the future, is what would it have also looked like if we included lube in that scene? What would it have been like if Connell was and I also have this lube if we want to try it, and it was just snuck in there, because I think the next step to this was just yes, your first time might very well hurt, and also lube might make it feel better, and what's your thought on that? I'm curious.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, for me, educating myself with more and more detail of the anatomy of arousal, is making sure that I, as an intimacy coordinator, am able to share that anatomical detail and then help to continue to make intimate moments better. But on that score, one of the places that we absolutely made sure we brought the lube in was in I May Destroy You.
Let's get into it. Let's talk about that, because I know that before we started recording, we kind of talked about this, and specifically about the queer scenes that you worked on. And I'm curious to hear about that and the importance. And that show, I still think about that show. And for those of you who haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It is so expansive. It is just, there is so much in it. And I think I'm still, months later, thinking about the way that the scenes went and how it ended. And there's just so much in it. And so I'm super curious to hear the scenes that you worked on and how illuminating that was for you.
And what's so fantastic about Michaela's writing is the complexity, that no character is black and white. There's no good or bad character. The sort of Michaela's character Arabella, yes, she was done too, but then she also, in her response to Papa and his behavior and playing Kwame's character, again, yes, he was assaulted, he was done to, but then his choice to go and have sex with a woman and choose to withhold telling her the fact that he is in fact a gay man. So all of that, all the beauty of that complexity, and it's so real. That's just, isn't it? Our life is fundamentally lived in the grey area. Yes, they're beautiful and our complete yeses, and we have our, and then absolutely, our no's or places that we've been assaulted or violated. But there's so much in that grey area of sort of when we don't have the courage, or we just withhold a little bit of information, and none of us are walking saints or evil, and that's what was so amazing about Michaela's writing and working on that production as well. The ongoing interrogation and development of the script, as we were going along. There was, as Michaela said in one of the interviews, I didn't know it was this number while we were doing it, but there's 174 rewrites.
Wow, that's wild. That's so many. I did not know that at all.
This is it. And I was saying to, after, one day, oh, what are you doing this weekend? She goes, oh, I'm rewriting episodes 7 and 8.
My God.
And what she held, the fact that she was executive producer, writer, co-director.
Oh my God, star.
And star.
Wow.
And watching Michaela move hats, sort of I'd meet up with her for breakfast and we'd be having a chat and we'd be into the scenes as an actor. And then on that day she'd finish her scenes and she'd bang into her own clothes, and she's right next to the most amazing, beautiful, beautiful Sam Miller, her co-director, who is the most gorgeous, generous soul, right next to him, then co-directing. And then she goes, oh, at lunchtime, oh, I've just got to go for an executive producers meeting.
Oh my God.
And then she's saying to me, Yeah, the talent. And then she's saying to me, oh, I've got to do these rewrites this weekend.
Oh my God.
But the ongoing creativity as you know, and I sort of, I got to the point that as I'm a dyslexic person, so I find reading takes me a long time. So I got to that, as I was receiving different draft after draft, I had to just wait and then just read the draft that was then ready as we were working on it, because I couldn't quite handle this,
the back and forth.
But the sense of the creativity throughout the arc of the whole filming of it felt more like a theatre performance, a theatre experience of their ongoing and discovering and knowing more and more about what the piece was as it was happening. But yeah, so back to Lube.
Back to Lube.
So again, the scene with Kwame where he first of all has the the consensual sexual encounter, and then then going into as he's about to leave, then that's characters stopping him from leaving, and then going into sort of that abusive moment. But in the consensual sex, when Kwame's character he's offered to have sex without protection of a condom, and goes, I don't do that. So again, seeing that no, and then they're asking for protection, and then you see he gets out the condom and the lube, and then that was very clear that then the choreography is that he uses the KY jelly on himself and then onto the anus, and again for that was really important, and then in particular again trying to really honour and be clear and detailed and precise then with the time that it takes for penetration for anal sex, Right. So again, trying to make sure, and not just penetration but withdrawal. You can't withdraw just in an instant. So again, those were the details that we brought, looked at, as well as the position of the legs. If you're having penetrative anal sex face to face, what the position of the pelvis has to be, where the legs go. Again, making sure that we're, checking in with people from the queer community so we can make sure that detail is correct.
Yeah, that it's accurate. Yeah, I think as for me, I kind of identify in terms of my sexual orientation as mostly straight. I think a lot of people, especially in our line of work, are like, I don't know, clearly there's a spectrum and clearly there's a lot of people you can feel attraction to and romance and all of these things. So that's how I identify. But when I'm not exposed to queer cis man and cis man sex, that's not the type of pornography I watch. That's not usually the type of TV shows that I end up watching with those scenes. And so when I did see the legs up like that, I was like, oh, I don't know if I've really seen that kind of sex. And that's really important to show exactly what you said, the accuracy of that type of sex. And I just thought that was a really eye-opening moment for me, again, as this person who doesn't consume those type of scenes often.
That's right. So what I feel is really important, and what I can bring through interrogating the scene, having those conversations, bringing the detail to the intimate content, is that we get the anatomical detail right. For me, I know that when I'm watching an intimate scene and the anatomy doesn't work, so for example, there was a sex scene that they're having sex, so she's lying on the bed and he stood, so that's, and they're penetrative sex and they're in a lovely rhythm, great, and then he gathers her and pulls him to her and lifts her off the bed and turns and puts her against the wall, and they continue having penetrative sex against the wall, great, but then suddenly he just flips her, he just turns her, and he just carries on with a rhythm, and I'm going, now he's either Mr. Stretchy, and he's got the everlastic penis, or there needed to have been withdrawal,
right?
And then you turn somebody, and then there needs to be repenetration.
Yeah.
It's actually quite hard to repenetrate vaginally if someone's just stood against the wall. You need to have knees bent. You need to extend the pelvis back towards. Yeah. It takes something to refine the vagina, to repenetrate before you can continue. So by then, I'm out of it. I'm done.
Exactly.
I'm going, this ain't real.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it's supposed to be a really poignant moment, and I'm out of it. I don't believe in it.
Yeah.
So for me, whereas when the anatomical detail is correct, and that's what I believe, and we're telling emotional stories, we want to stay engaged in these characters and these characters' storytelling throughout this intimate scene. And in order to do that, when I get in my gut that it's real, that the anatomy is telling the right storytelling, then I can stay actually taking that as a given and staying engaged with character. But as soon as anatomically it doesn't tell the right storytelling, I go, check out.
Exactly.
So that's why I think it's so important. And I've had a couple of times, I was on a production recently where I was sat in the producer's tent, and when I was noting it, I was going, his legs are too straight, he needs to bend his knees, and you didn't get the moment of penetration. And this director said, I would never give an actor that kind of note. But it's like, the role of the intimacy, she didn't understand actually what it is that we bring. If a fight, if a punch isn't choreographed so that it's the right camera angles and you believe that it could, that punch could engage with someone's face, you just go, well, I don't believe that.
Or if you the person who receives the punch turned the opposite direction they should have turned, then it's not believable.
Yeah. So again, it's actually about bringing the best work so the actors can stay really in those characters and we can stay in those characters. Anyway, so that's where the details. So I have things like the Gamer Sutra.
Oh, love it.
And you see all my notes for, so again, where we have some, so here's some other ones of anal sex, facing anal sex. There, I just saw it there a moment.
Yeah, just realistic portrayals of what that looks like for people.
Yeah, so when we're looking at what's possible, what's believable, and then again honouring that community, and then for the queer, lesbian, this is a brilliant book.
It. Wow, that's a big book, the whole lesbian sex book.
It is, and it's got beautiful narrative, beautifully talking not just about the anatomical detail, but the emotional and psychological connection. And again, all of that really matters. Queer female storytelling is so much about the emotional connection, that desire and that need to, press to come to be. And that's the journey in. So again, making sure that that journey in towards the intimate content is telling the right storytelling, emotion, not just physically, but emotionally and psychologically.
Yes, that was going to be my next question, and you informed me about this recent article that Keira Knightley was featured in, but the question was why is it so important for TV shows to include an intimacy specialist in their production team? And can you talk a little bit about the Keira Knightley article that you were sharing me on earlier?
So now that there is the role of the intimacy coordinator, and as you can see, it's not, it's at the beginning it was it's about safety, and I had on a production where a producer's called us in but not really understood or really embraced everything that we bring. And as you can hear, just they've said to me, you're here for the girl, right? And it's like, would you say to a stunt coordinator, you're here for the goodie? For the actor that's playing the goodie, you're here for them, but you don't need to talk to anybody else, and you certainly don't need to choreograph anything. And it's that's the same analogy, and it's it means that they're using an nth, a tenth of what it is, the skills that we are bringing. We also have to respect, and that is a big part of the role. Actually, is from having the whole arc of what it is we offer. Each job is different. What each director wants, what each producer wants, what each actor wants is different, and that in a way is as much of the role is then reading the room, and then adapting and shifting and changing, because obviously putting in place agreement and consent, it works both ways, sort of means it provides the opportunity for that agreement and consent, both of what the director wants, what the producer wants, what the director wants, what's good for the actors, agreement and consent for the actor of what's good for them, how they're being touched, their simulated sexual content and their nudity content. And then, like I say, through to then we're bringing skills as the intimacy coordinator to choreograph this body dance, and we're bringing skills of like I say, detail of anatomy, where to hold if you want a body, if you want a rhythm through from penetration through to that rhythm, building rhythm through to orgasm. We're bringing in the detail of that rhythm and choreographing it really clearly. So Keira Knightley's comments, that's what we're bringing, is complete focus on serving storytelling, serving director, and so an actor, I really believe an actor will feel vulnerable when they feel that what's been asked of them is gratuitous. Whereas when it's really clear through that actor-director part of the, that interrogation, through that actor-director conversation, as you do with any scene, why is this scene here? What's it telling us about the storytelling? How is it pushing the storytelling forward? What's it telling us about each character individually, and then each character in relationship? Once those questions have been asked and answered, and then that's what we already then a physical shape will become apparent from that interrogation of the scene. And then once you get that up on its feet, that's what you're honouring, and the actor knows that every single, like just as you described with the top of episode 2 in Normal People, every single detail is then serving that storytelling.
Right.
So what Keira Knightley is talking about is the times at which, as she said, I don't want it to be those horrible sex scenes where you're all greased up and everybody is grunting. So that's a sense of it's the act for the act itself, rather than really focusing on the storytelling. So she's speaking about not wanting to re-offer her skill, her artistry to those kind of intimate scenes, and that's what we can give as an intimacy coordinator, is making sure, regardless of whether it's a male director or a female director, that we can help the whole production. Yes, to create the intimate content as I've described, honouring storytelling, honouring director's vision, honouring and giving time and space for the actors' autonomy, empowerment through agreement and consent of touch, of nudity, of simulated sexual content, so that we create a scene where the actor is personally safe, so that they artistically can give their all to the intimate scene.
Yeah, yes. And I also think it's really cool how Keira Knightley and other actors and actresses do kind of have the power to be like, hey, like, I'm in a position to say, like, I want to be involved in certain types of sex scenes, and I don't want them to be meaningless, and to basically, because like when certain type of sex scenes show how unrealistic and potentially harmful that they could be, and millions of people watch that, predominantly like young people or just people in general, that becomes normalized as something that actually shouldn't be normalized. Like, that's not a healthy way to engage in sex and intimacy sometimes. And so when actors speak up like that and they use their power for good to say, I only want to be involved in sex scenes that are realistic, have consent, X, Y, and Z, then that alters the norm of like what audience members are viewing.
Absolutely, it's so fantastic. Keira Knightley has a platform through her profile and through the fantastic work that she does, and through her speaking about her deep integrity, both as an artist but also as a mother and as a parent. Talking about what she is happy for her children to see or not see, which is all just it's just fantastic. To have a voice, but also as a woman in the industry to have that voice, and then to be able to champion that and really honour and get behind that, and then say, and here as the intimacy coordinator we can help. The process that we're now bringing with that intimate content means that all your concerns and all of your sort of your past experiences, you don't have to re-experience that, which is creating work in a better way. And that's what's been so fantastic. I felt very humbled and taken aback and delighted in the different communities this year in particular as a result of Normal People and I May Destroy You. So, for example, I've been contacted, someone's making a documentary for the BBC around the positive effect of the intimate content, for example, in Normal People, for kids in secondary schools.
Love
and particularly, as you've said, about, a positive depiction of first time a sexual awakening and consent and, and asking for protection. And they said they're using that scene as part of their sex education. I've been contacted. I know it's amazing. And I've been contacted by people from the queer male black community saying, thank you for the first time we've been seen. They are saying we need it to go further. Right. I'm saying, great, write it. You take responsibility to write it. But yes, the complexities of these stories need to be told. And then It's a Sin. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to see It's a Sin yet.
No, not yet.
Have you heard about it?
No, I've never even heard of it.
Okay, so it's Russell T Davies has written about the, queer male life in the 80s and then the rise of the HIV and AIDS epidemic. My my life was that I was a musical theatre dancer in the 80s,
Right.
with all of my beautiful colleagues. My life would be you'd go to the Pineapple, you'd sit in the cafe, and you'd wait to go to Charles Organ's classes or Jack Gunn's classes, so the experience of the HIV and the stigma that the queer male community that it had with them, and the devastating effects. I had a beautiful singing teacher at the time, Chris Edwards, who really was supporting me on different roles that I'd got. And he was the first person that he just got ill, and within 18 months he was gone.
Wow.
So again, the intimate content is absolutely integral to the storytelling. It's a piece that is absolutely about joy and celebration of queer male loving in all of its beauty and just a love of life. And, so again, to be able to support that production with, really clear, good, intimate content, supporting all these lovely performers to create the best content that serves that storytelling and then allows the show to have the impact that it has.
Wow. Yeah. Absolutely incredible. Well, Ita, we have one more question for you. I have had the best time. Again, thank you so much for being here. What a fruitful and lovely conversation. And that's just really about you. Like, what's next? I know you have this documentary coming out, and I just want to know, like, what directions do you want to take your career in, like, the most meaningful way that you can engage in this work?
Well, I'm actually engaged right at the moment in working with a lady called Siobhan O'Higgins, who runs this active consent program, and Lindsay Blair, who's a sex and couples therapist, and actually continuing to educate me further in the detail of, the anatomy and the psychology of, female and male sexual arousal, so that I too can continue to bring more authentic details, so I can continue to help to portray more realistic, beautiful, intimate loving. Also, if that's what the story, requires, abusive content, but just so that we continue creating the best scenes that serve the storytelling, that empower the actors, empower the director to tell the work in the best way, so that what's seen helps to empower everybody in the normality and brings more proper detail of what our sexual expressions are, so that we can continue to, help people to understand themselves better in their sexual lives, and for all of us to be empowered from that.
Amazing. Yeah. So important, the work that you do. I am obviously a huge fan. Thank you again so much for being on. And I can't wait to continue to follow your work.
Yay. Thank you so much, Danielle. And likewise, what you're doing is absolutely brilliant. What you're offering, regarding just allowing people to just be open, honest, acknowledged, empowered in whoever they are in their sexual expression is just such a gift. So thank you as well. And it's just a joy to be part of your journey.
Oh my God, thank you so much. Let's talk about why Uberlube is one of my absolute favorite lubes. It provides a long-lasting performance that lets skin feel skin. It has simple, body, and condom-friendly ingredients. It dissipates when no longer needed, so there's no sticky residue. And it's recommended by leading doctors. They're also partnering with us to give a few lucky listeners free lube for a year. Enter the secret code word SLIPPERY into the Google form on our Instagram linktree and use promo code SEXEDDB for 10% off your purchase with free shipping at www.uberlube.com. Ever look at your penis or vulva in the mirror and be like, damn, my part is art? Clone-A-Willy definitely agrees. The original penis casting kit, Clone-A-Willy, and the classy counterpart, Clone-A-Pussy, are easy to make, sex positive, and body safe. While Clone-A-Willy makes for the most personalized sex toy on the planet, Clone-A-Pussy makes for the most unique memento. All materials are 100% body safe, extremely high quality, and easy to use and clean. Check them out at www.cloneawilly.com and use promo code SEXED20 for 20% off your purchase. Sex Ed with DB is supported by Pandia Health, the only doctor-led birth control delivery company. Here are some fun facts about Pandia Health. Most birth control is free with insurance, or for $15 per pack without. Your birth control comes with free delivery and free goodies, and you can get an online doctor visit if you need it, which is perfect during COVID-19. Go to pandiahealth.com, that's Pandia health.com, and use code SEXEDFREE to get a free telemedicine appointment for the first 50 people who sign up. Offer only valid in Arizona, California, Florida, Texas, and Wyoming. Our creator, co-producer, sound engineer, and host is me, Danielle Bezalel, aka DB. Our co-producer and communications lead is Cathren Cohen. Our main logo and banner graphic were created by Andrea Forgacs. Our social media intern is Leslie Lopez. Our music theme is by Hook Sounds. Our ad music is by my stepdad, Bill Gant. Thank you so much to our featured guests, partners, and our listeners. If you're interested in advertising with us, email us at sexedwithdb@gmail.com. For more sex ed content, follow us on Insta @sexedwithdbpodcast. Tune in next time.